Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Monday, October 23rd. I'm back from my desert camping trip. It was a great trip. I was out there in Joshua Tree National Park a couple of days with my son. I had a great time. Something about the desert. I just love the desert, man. Something about it just the stark beauty and that light, that just the clear intense light of the desert. It was really cool. We did a lot of hiking, and in the morning we woke up early. We heard the coyotes howling. That was really cool. But it was a great time. It was a great time. The thing about camping, like, for those of you who have done it, maybe you will agree with what I'm about to say. I mean, camping is not comfortable, at least not the way I do it. Like, I just sleep in a tent with, a mat and a sleeping bag, and of course, we cook outside. I got a little gas burner stove. Sometimes we do a fire. This time we were just using that gas burner stove, but I mean, it's not comfortable. It's not like being home in your nice, comfortable surroundings, climate controlled in your bed and everything, and a shower, especially the desert, because the desert, there's no water. So you don't have the luxury of washing up or maybe even jumping into to a river or a lake just to freshen up. And the heat is intense. But there's something about that experience when you take yourself out of your... It's, again, another one of these things where I recommend it so highly if you've never done it. It's just like the things I talk about with respect to mental toughness and resilience when it comes to trading and investing and embracing those hard times. Like, take yourself out of the comfort zone. Camping's a great way to do that. And then you really, really appreciate when you come home and you got that nice bed and you got your house or your apartment, climate control, the shower, running water, stuff like that. Things we don't think about and we don't really appreciate till you get away from it. But the other thing I find is that, and it's not comfortable. I mean, I'm not a great sleeper. Like, I wake up and stuff like that. And definitely was the same thing when we were out there in the desert. And I was happy to get home, because you always are when you get back to your comfortable surroundings. But at the same time, it's kind of addictive. Like, I'm already thinking about wanting to go to the next place or the next spot. So yeah, I mean, just if you've never done it, they're my barking friends now. If you've never done it, I'd recommend getting out there into nature, sleeping out under the stars. And we saw 1 million stars out there in the desert. It's a dark sky location. The moon phase was like a crescent moon. I don't know, maybe it was at 28 or 32%, something like that. So we had a little bit of moonlight, which cut some of the stars in the night sky, but it was still great. Still great. Anyway, I'm back. So let's talk a little bit about the markets. Folks, now there's a lot going on, of course, as always, but we have the war in the Middle East. We have, the war in Ukraine, which you don't hear about anymore, but the war in the Middle East, interest rates, so the monetarists are going crazy. And, now the big news is the 10-year yield above 5%. By the way, there's no indication in Fed Fund futures of a rate hike at the November 1st meeting. And actually, I looked through pricing and probabilities going all the way out until next July. And there are no rate hikes really priced into Fed Fund futures right now. As a matter of fact, there's the probability of a rate cut is pretty significant for July 2024. And we know, or it appears that the Powell Fed just basically follows whatever the market dictates. I've done many videos on that. It's kind of crazy to have an institution that is functionally a monopolist, but they cede their power over to whatever the market dictates. So it's kind of crazy. But that's been their pattern, that's been their behavior. And since there are no more rate hikes priced in, and actually there's a rate cut priced in for July 2024, I would think that the bond market sell-off is over. That Treasury market sell-off, that's not to say it's going to, start on a big rally right now. But I think the downside is limited. It's basing out. And I think as soon as we get more clarity from the Fed, if the Fed were just to say, we're done, if they were to state that emphatically that they are done raising interest rates, then we would get a rally in treasuries. But they're still keeping that kind of hawkish tone, and you know how that affects the monetarists. I mean, we saw that in stock market reaction on Friday and a little bit today, although today we had a very weak opening. I sent out an email to my subscribers saying, that's not aligned with what I'm seeing with the fiscal flow data, which I'll talk about in a second. And sure enough, we had a bounce back. Not in the Dow bounced, but then it sold off. But the NASDAQ closed positive, and the S&P closed with just a minor loss. So let's discuss the fiscal flow data. Last week was the tax drain on the 16th, and I commented on this on a number of videos last week. I mean, the government balance, the federal government's balance, budget balance, went from a 39 billion deficit on the 12th of October to a 40 billion surplus on the 17th of October. So that was basically like an 80 billion swing to the surplus side. So what is a government surplus? A government surplus, they have to take away 80 billion from the non-government. Okay, so that was a net drain of 80 billion from the non-government. When you look at the peak deficit on October 12th to the peak surplus on October 17th. But now the deficit is only about 7 billion. Okay, so that means 33 billion has been put back, has been recovered. Okay, we didn't recover all the way back to where we were on October 12th, but you saw the trend is now starting to move in the right direction. In other words, that the surplus is disappearing. We're moving back into a deficit balance for the government. That means a positive balance for the economy, for the non-government. And this is why I think that the stock market sell-off is over. Now, today was a day where you could have been very, very scared into selling the market. You had bad news again out of the Middle East. You had bad news, the way it's reported anyway, bad news on the interest rate front, with the 10-year breaking above 5%. So you had all as a matter of fact, the email I sent out this morning, I included a quote from the poet Rudyard Kipling, who wrote that famous poem, If. And one line in there says, when others around you are losing their head, or it goes like, always keep your head on when others around you are losing theirs. Okay? And that was very useful or applicable today, because everybody was losing their minds. It was another one of these panicky days. Oh my God, the Middle East. Oh my God, 5% on the 10-year. And again, with this whole monetarism bullshit, it's the single variable analysis, right? I can't even call it analysis because it totally ignores the fact that, we operate under a system of double entry accounting, right? What is that? For every debit, there's a credit. For every liability, there is an asset. So like all these people who are screaming about high interest rates, well, yeah, I understand that for debtors, high interest rates are a problem. But for creditors, high interest rates equate to more income. So as I always say, whether we're talking about interest rate changes or whether we're talking about inflation or whether we're talking about taxation, it's just a redistribution of income. It's not, the income doesn't get destroyed. It doesn't fly out into outer space. It doesn't get burned up like gasoline in your car. So, but the way it is portrayed all the time, the way these things are portrayed, is from like only looking at one side of the equation. And if you're going to do that, you're just going to set yourself up to be wrong every single time. I mean, you just cannot do that. You have to see how both sides are affected. And is there a net loss in income? If there's not a net loss in income, if it's simply a transfer, if it's simply a redistribution, which is what all those phenomenon are, okay? The only time it's a loss of income is if the government takes it away and keeps it. In other words, if the government runs perpetual surpluses, or if the productive capability is destroyed. I mean, we're looking at wars right now. If something is physically destroyed to the point where you can't operate it anymore, where you can't produce, let's say, you're manufacturing something or you're producing food or fuel or basic necessities or anything for that matter. But really, if you talk about what's the most necessary, what are the most necessary things, those are like basic necessities: food, shelter, clothing, water, stuff like that. If that stuff is destroyed, yeah, that's a loss in real terms. And a loss in financial terms would only be like, if the government takes it away and keeps it on their side. And if nothing else was there to supplant that. But otherwise, none of these things have that consequence. These things always are a trade-off, and you have to consider both sides. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that the trend following the tax drain now is starting to look better. See, I can't sit around like looking at these headlines about the Middle East war or looking at these headlines particularly about interest rates, because I understand the two sides of the equation, and I know that everyone else out there is not paying attention to the two sides of the equation. So I focus on what I always focus on, which is, my core analysis, the fiscal flows. And this for a number of reasons. First of all, we can't predict these geopolitical developments. I mean, we only know what the headline is. We're not on the inside of people who are making the decision. Economics is different. I mean, we get the numbers, we could see the flows. It's not hidden, it's open. But we don't know what's being discussed right now on either side in terms of where this war is going. Okay? And again, with interest rates, it just absolutely does not faze me at all, because I understand what that is, what I just explained to you. One side takes a hit, the other side gains a benefit. So it stays in there. It just gets, swished around a little bit. What I do pay attention to, and what is really the driver of all this stuff, as long as we here in the United States are not bombed or destroyed, and that's not happening. We got to focus on the economic stuff, which is the fiscal stuff. That's the driver of everything. So, like I was saying, number one, I can't predict geopolitical events because I'm not on the inside, drawing up plans as to what's going to happen. And number two, by focusing on the economic and the fiscal, which is something I see every day, it allows me to be comfortable and relaxed in these situations. I didn't get all panicky on Friday or this morning, and I try to convey that to my subscribers, just, stay cool. When others about you are losing their heads, don't lose yours. Stay calm, relax, stay relaxed. We know what's going on. We see the numbers. It's nothing to get excited about. As a matter of fact, it's actually it's improving, it's getting better. So this week, look, there's only like a 6.7 billion surplus now on the government side. It's nothing. That's going to easily be wiped out and turned back into a deficit this week. I remember, what is a deficit? That's adding water to the pool. The water level's coming back up again. The water level was down to all the way down with a 40 billion surplus. Now it's come almost all the way back to, not to the top of where it was on October 12th, but there's only a 7 billion surplus now. And by this week, we have a Social Security payment on Wednesday, November 1st, which is when? That's the 27th, the 30th, the 3rd. Next Wednesday is the first of the month, which is those big first of the month payments. Okay, last year, the first of the month payments in November, the leading flows were like 93.6 billion. The net flow was like 69 billion. So we got 69, at least 69, if not 70 something billion coming in. We got this week's Social Security payment. We got another Social Security payment next week. We have the November 15th quarterly interest payment coming. So we got like a tsunami of positive fiscal flows coming in. You're going to sell the market? I mean, go ahead and put a big label on your back saying, I don't know, I'm a monetarist, or, I like to panic, I like to sell low. That's up to you. I just come here, try to give you information, try to hold your hand a little bit, try to, help you to stay calm and relaxed. That's all I can do, really. I can't force you to do anything that I say. I mean, it's all up to you. If you get sucked in, it's another reason why, it's really bad to just look at this stuff every single day and try to ascribe some meaning to every little fluctuation. I understand that the media does that because they got to write stuff and put it out there, or they got to, talk about it on a show somewhere. They need that content, which is constant. We don't have to do that. I mean, nobody's making you do that, okay? You look at the macro stuff and you're like, okay, we're good. Then go away and do something. Or you look at the macro stuff and you say, okay, at this particular time coming up, we're going to have some turbulence. Just, prepare for it. It's like if you're living in some state, like if you're living in Florida or along the East Coast where you get a lot of these hurricanes, or in the Gulf, it's not like it's happening every day. And, there are weather forecasts that tell you it's coming in our direction. You got time to prepare for it. And then it comes and then it goes and then everything goes back to normal again. Same thing. Same exact thing. So anyway, I hope that was helpful today. And the camping trip was great. And now I'm already thinking about another one. I think I'll leave the desert for a while. I've been doing a lot of desert camping the last couple of years. And I want to go into some, maybe up to Montana or Washington State. Something like that. Some forest with water, mountains, maybe a little cold. Desert was hot, of course, although at night it was pretty cool. So I don't know, but I'll let you guys know if I decide to do anything. That's it for today. Happy to be back, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.